Okay, Michelle, you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, it's 4:03, 4:04. We're going to start the August 27th workshop, and I'd like to invite KCI up to talk about the well number 5. Come on up. All right, thank you. I didn't have the agenda in front of me. I looked a little in disarray.
Before Luigi speaks, I want to say that the actual well, or well number 5, is installed and permitted. That's the pipe in the ground. We did the testing, and the Maryland Department of the Environmental Supply Program has issued permits for it, where to take 100,000 gallons a day from that well. In order to do that, we actually need to build a facility to pump the water and put it into their distribution system.
Can you explain to DJ and I where well number 5 is?
It's, I had a picture over here, but then. If you were down the wastewater treatment plant, have you ever been in there? Okay. If you went where Ken's office is, and you turn and look towards the Hollingford Manor, the fence there, the
Got it.
well's right over in the middle
Yep,
there.
I know where it's at now.
That's where it is.
Got it.
Just has rusty pipes sticking out of the ground right now, but KCI is here to propose engineering services to actually turn that rusty pipe in the ground to active production well and
Very
well
good.
house and all that.
Very good. Lay it on us.
I want to first thanks for the opportunity to let me present our proposal for the well house number 5 design. Anyone needs a copy of the proposal?
Then we send it out to everybody. I mean, you need it.
Yeah, let me have
No,
one.
I have it.
I know I printed it.
Okay. And
I
Louis
got it.
has a copy. Okay. Right. The scope of the work is to provide the engineering services for the design.
That must be Charlie.
Charlie.
This is Charlie?
You were.
There's batteries bust.
That's everyone. Yeah. Check that guy. Hang
There's a
down.
park out there.
Hang down.
We filled all the spaces.
No, you didn't.
We started without you.
That's fine.
We never really get it going anywhere again.
Yeah, I just started with the kind of general description of the scope of the work. It will be the engineering services to provide the design of the new well house number 5. As Louis said, it is going to be located at in the field actually west of the wastewater treatment plant. Just next to it, and the work includes the obtaining the site-specific information through survey services and geotechnical services. It includes the design, includes the site design, the pumping system design, the chemical treatment processing design, the electrical, mechanical, as well as the well house building design. It also includes the permitting process, the bait document preparation, and the bait fish services.
One thing I want to comment, Lisa, before you start, when you talk about in this well house design, there is treatment of groundwater. Even though groundwater technically is potable, this particular water would be, it still has to be treated with sodium hypochlorite or sodium hydroxide or aquamag, I think they use, or something similar, in order to make sure that water is suitable for public distribution. Because once then the distribution system has that type of chlorine count, stay disinfected, so to speak. Adjustment for pH and the other aquamag is to prevent corrosion of copper piping and things like that. So all that goes into it. So it isn't just pumping it out and sending it out. It has to actually be treated with chemicals.
Yeah, it needs to be treated, and MD will eventually issue the certification of potability in order for the water to be pumped into the public water system.
So the proposal we have here, of course, is for the total amount for the fees for the total engineering of the project. Is our goal to put a water tower here? Or
No.
Our goal is not to put a water tower, so we're putting up like a well house?
Well house.
Yes.
Well.
Yes.
And it would be, do we need to take this well water through the plant? Or
No.
it's ready to go?
When It's in the well house and it pumps, it goes out on outlet. These chemicals are injected into it.
Right from the well house.
Right from the well house. They go into our distribution system. This will go into a 6-inch line, I think, in the
south-
field there, next to
south
the
of
plant,
the-
into an 8-inch line on Landing Lane.
That's right.
And the amount of gallons per day this will produce?
Up to 100, it's permitted for up to 100,000 a day.
Okay.
Want the maximum use.
That's
slightly
right,
more.
yeah, like MDE has some kind of some regulation, like they have the water appropriation permit, which kind of determines like the pumping rate from this well house.
100,000 gallons a day on a yearly basis and 150,000 gallons per day on a month of maximum use. In other words, if you have any one month during the course of a year that you need more water, like a hot season or something, you can pump up to that much.
Would, is this a,
I don't think you'll need that much, but it has a capacity.
or is this more, are we planning this as a backup to our
Yes.
current system?
Currently, there's 2 water lines that feed Hollingworth Manor, that whole area down there. And the pressure is either from the plant or the Blue Ball Tower. In other words, if something happens to any one of those lines, there's no water in that whole area, and there's over 500 homes in there. So this is a backup system to supply in the event that that should fail.
In lieu,
Or it can also act,
how
supplement.
quickly are you wanting us to approve the design work for this project? Are we gonna bring it out of like our major facility?
Yes,
funding?
this will be an improvement to the system, so it's made facility. This, I need them to start on the design of it.
Okay.
It doesn't mean we bid it out right away, because we haven't built well number 2R yet.
Okay.
So we will build that first, then this will follow well 2R. But it's out of major facility money, not other.
So this would be a decision you want us to make at the next meeting?
Yes, if you're prepared to make that decision, put it that way.
Any questions from the board in regards to it?
This is well number 5, so I'm assuming there's 4 wells prior to this. Are they all the same specs?
Well, number 1R is behind the shop, the Crossroads Mall, 213 and 40. Burger King's over here, and then well number 1R is over there. 2R is 14 and a half Water Bowling Street, which is as the crow flies, probably a few hundred feet away.
Right.
That's going to be a new well house. Well number 3 is up behind Walmart.
I don't
Okay.
know.
And well number 4, which isn't built, is off Frenchtown Road. And the decision to build that will be based on the Southside LLC development.
Right.
That's like in reserve.
So all of the wells are roughly the same size, is that correct?
No, the well number 3 pumps about 850,000 gallons a day. Well number 1R, I think it's 100,000. Well number 2R would be 100,000, but they have to switch back and forth. In other words, they appropriate 100,000 gallons a day, not counting on the maximum use. So you can use one well, the other's dormant, the other one turns on, the other one goes off. So the maximum you can pump is 100,000. This one would be 100,000 on a daily basis, or 150,000 month of maximum use. So the well number 3 is much larger.
Yeah.
And I think the well number 4, if we ever, we're permitted for it, but if it ever gets built, I think it's 500,000 gallons a day.
Yeah.
Pretty big.
Very nice.
Well,
This is a nice backup.
Yeah, and also there are different pressure zones in the trans water system. I believe all the other wells, they're located in the higher pressure zone.
Yes.
And this well will be the only well in the town area.
How big is this well house? Would a well house be for that?
The entire site should be like
No,
about,
the building itself,
Yeah,
it's probably like a.
take you through that on
yeah, I
the
don't-
spec there.
but that's okay, I
don't
just
have
want,
the number.
I'm
I'll
just trying to think
of.
of,
Find it, because we have a spec, I just don't, didn't look
I was
at.
just trying to think ahead with all those solar panels that might be going out there. How many can we put on that building if we pull that off?
It's not that big a
Yeah,
building.
it won't be a
Only
big
2
one.
rooms.
So I was just trying to think, how many solar panels we could put on.
One of the things we're doing with this particular well is that at the wastewater treatment plant, there's a 1,500 kW generator, which is a really big generator, biggest generator we have, it's a standby generator. That generator has the capacity to more or less power up the wastewater treatment plant, with the exception of the Big Elk pump station, which is on a 400 kW that's separate, which is new, as a matter of fact. I went into KCI to do the engineering work to tie in that 1500 kW with this well as a supplemental or standby power system, rather than buy another generator and put it in. When we do well number 2R, which doesn't have a generator, we're actually putting a standby generator with that. So with this one, we're actually tying into an existing system.
Very good. I don't have any other questions. Anyone else? Ouija, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks. You don't have to come to the next meeting, though.
Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Okay, it's time for our presentation from our finance department on our overview.
The music, please.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Ground controls of.
I thought you were kidding.
Is it Major Tom?
Yes.
I know it's somebody. Kids know all that stuff, but she's young.
Okay, just an overview of the finance department. I want to thank Beth for we put this together earlier in the week, and really want to thank her for assistance in this. I don't want to read the slides. If you have the handout in front of you, you can see in front of you also up on the screen. But you know, we perform a number of functions. We're probably the least glamorous of all the departments within this town. We don't have any fantastic headlines of arrest or any major businesses being brought to town. We just account for all this stuff. So that's the kind that we are, with a kind of smaller staff, and we're trying to keep just doing our thing without a whole lot of things there. These are the different functions within the finance department. I'll touch on each of those subsequent slides. The budget part is that's a couple-month process, beginning with we get the figures from the state of Maryland as to the assessments for the year, the total assessments for the upcoming fiscal year. We coordinate all the requests from the budget head, from the department head, their budget requests, and work with the mayor, and we just kind of crunch a bunch of numbers, look at the capital, and look at different funding sources made for capital, and of course go over the salaries and the known increases in fringe benefits, both healthcare being the single largest fringe benefit, and that's a substantial increase every year. It has been recently. So we just do a lot of number crunching behind the scenes. This is what goes on beyond what is requested by the departments, because they don't request their own insurance and their own fringe benefits and salaries. And once the mayor has a proposed budget that includes a proposed salary for the non-FOP covered employees, and we go with that and do all those calculations. So that can be a very time-consuming process that involves meeting with the department heads and frequent meetings with the mayor. So that's all part of the budget process. Anybody have any questions on it? If you have any questions, jump in.
Very good.
I'll talk louder, wake you up. It's not real exciting stuff, I realize. It's all necessary stuff. The payroll, of course.
This is the exciting part.
Yeah, this is the exciting part, all of us here.
You might want to put a mic to this question.
All right. Everybody's interested in payroll here because we each get a paycheck every 2 weeks. You can see the number of records that we processed during the year, 2,800. That includes, of course, the direct deposit and those getting a live check. Payroll doesn't end with the payroll. There are the fringe benefits that go with the payroll and the withholding. There are calculations beyond just the hours. Into the timesheets are totaled in finance department. The checks calculated, and of course all the withholdings done and then processed to make sure they all go to the right places, from the direct deposits to the the federal withholdings and the state withholding. And then with that also are the end of the year record keeping requirements of the W-4s and the W-2s and the 1099s for those who are not paid through payroll. So it's this an every 2 week process. It comes out every 2 weeks, and it's very time consuming, and of course accuracy is of the utmost importance. And I think everybody appreciates at least the department every 2 weeks, every other Friday. So So you go to the next screen.
On the pay check that the employees have or get and on the stub, I don't know, I've never seen there specifically, but does it have accrued time on there?
Yes, it does.
For-
Your balance, right?
Okay.
It has your balance and what you, and if you use, say, of course, you wouldn't have that, but if you, Mayor Fishers don't get that, but if you were paid for a sick day during a week, would show that, 8 of your 80 hours were sick pay, but they would have your balance also on part of this, as
And
part of the
personal
stuff.
leave time? or
Personal
anything
leave,
like
sick,
that?
vacation,
Or vacation time
Yeah.
as it would be there?
as you use it and the balance.
And if they are gonna go on vacation or they have to take a day off, they submit a form to you?
Not to me, to
I'm
the,
talking to the department. So would you be accountable for that if you're gonna get the figure?
well, the timesheet would reflect that they
Okay.
give every 2 weeks that, this last Thursday, the 12th or whatever, was, they use 8 hours of vacation time to, and worked 72 and had a vacation day of 8 hours. That generated their 80-hour paycheck. That's just an example.
So who all submits time sheets to you?
The departments, head, they're
All-
approved by the, yeah, we do all the
All
time.
employees?
Absolutely.
Even if-
They go by way of their department heads. They're signed off by their department heads, and they come to finance, to Diana, for the processing and data entering into our payroll system.
Everybody. even the-
Everybody. You guys don't, because you never fill out a timesheet because you get paid what you get paid every 2 weeks. You don't have to fill in a timesheet. You're not, attendance isn't taken, and you're kind of on the clock, kind of 24 hours a day with the salary set by, the ordinance.
But the administrative side of the town, why would it be necessary for them to submit it even though you see them? Would that be something that could be accountable to you? I know you're not down with Public Works, and I know they have to submit something or any other department.
Why would we need to see a timesheet?
I mean, why would you, or is it necessary that all employees still have to turn? in?
Oh, absolutely, because some are paid hourly, some are exempt, some are non-exempt. So they
Okay,
still have
that's
to
the
generate a
point.
timesheet to, you may get overtime, you may get leave without pay for whatever reason. So there's always a record of that becomes available should the auditors want to check, tie in a given pay period's payroll with the timesheets that support that.
Or, yes, for everybody, even the salespeople have to clock in and out because the federal government says that they can't do anything less than minimum wage.
What about you, Roy?
We have to submit our time.
All right, thank you.
It's up to the
The
computer.
department heads for us don't, but everybody else has.
Thank
No,
you.
no, we all do, and they're all hard copies, they're signed off by the appropriate department head. Okay, accounts payable. We process all the purchase orders the department's supposed to.
Can I interrupt you real
Sure.
quick? You'd mentioned exempt and non-exempt employee. Now, I'm assuming that an exempt would be an hourly?
No, exempt from overtime. You're exempt
Exempt?
from overtime. I'm exempt, I don't get overtime.
Fair Labor Standards
I'm-
Act defines employees that are exempt or not exempt, and there's tests for that, professional, executive, things like that. People like me are exempt.
And how many
department
hours-
Managers are exempt.
How many hours as an exempt employee can you have before you start getting comp time?
You don't.
We don't get comp time. So you're being an exempt employee, wouldn't it be like when you come to the meetings, how does that work?
8 hours.
I get paid 8 hours whether I put in a 12-hour day or a 2-hour day.
Okay,
Easy to put in more than 2 hours a day.
all right. Very good. Okay, you answered that. Thank you.
The requisition will come to the finance department. Purchase orders are generated from them. We do all the accounts payable checks twice a month. Those are checks that Commissioner Gibbons signs twice a month, the first and third Wednesdays of the month. So in addition to the payroll done every other week, twice a month, the accounts payable checks are generated. And when we're not real lucky, it's the same week, so that's always kind of a crunch week. And of course, with that, all the invoices that are processed to create the accounts payable vendor checks, the 1099 is required at the end of the year for those vendors that are required 1099s. And also time consuming are the calls from the vendors. I got this check, what is it for? Where's this invoice, and so on and so forth. That's all these little bit of time-consuming activities add up to a busy schedule. Accounts receivable is very interesting. Part of accounts receivable, of course, are the monthly water and sewer bills, which are filed by the second notices, which are filed by the tags that are hung, which are filed by the shut-offs. So that's very busy. That's every month. The water and sewer bills are generated. There are miscellaneous invoices that are generated for code violations, grass cutting, trash pickup, or trash left in the property. Other miscellaneous invoice for color vibe races for the police, and which they paid. We did get the check to just like $24.90 was $2,490. They're very fast in paying.
They do pay us?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, the
From
check is
Utah?
from Utah. I forget what was the name of the check. Where was the address? I don't know where it's from. I know that's where I spoke to. I know where the check actually came from. But anyway, but a lot of miscellaneous checks. Patriots Bank, golf courses, bill once a year $1,000 for the raw water easement. So there's a lot of miscellaneous invoices in addition to the water and sewer bills. And the, He's got a bill. So we're busy doing the billing there. And also, we have to keep track of these, not only the water and sewer bills, but any miscellaneous bills are potentially tied into a county tax sale. Should they get one paid over a certain amount of time, we have to submit that information to the county for their annual tax sale.
And just to educate me a little bit, currently the county bills all of our town tax.
They bill all the tax. Counties are responsible for billing the state, county, and municipality
Real
taxes.
property.
Real property.
And
Real
then,
property on
they
business.
submit it to us when they get paid.
When you're right, they transmit it to us, yes.
Okay.
Monthly?
Once a month.
Yeah.
And that works out pretty well.
Yeah, we would prefer to not have to generate and mail tax bills. That's correct. That does work out well. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you had some time.
Well, no. I'll just question that slide. Okay,
I do. I have
okay,
one
sure.
more question. With the second notices and the shut-offs for the water bill,
Mhm.
and you know I've been in there I don't know how many times about taking credit cards. Is there any way we could just get a credit card swiper at the window and they
No,
can
but
swipe
we-
the credit card or? I mean,
I guess the short answer, no, but one possible solution would be, in effect, a kiosk, where they would basically do the transaction from computer in the lobby, just what they could from home. And there would still be a fee associated with that, but it wouldn't be the town employee taking a payment like you would for your lunch or your gas.
What's the fee for it?
$6.95 for $250.
Why don't we take one at the, help me understand, why can't we take one at the, why
Okay,
can't the girls?
It's tied into, the bill, we have to receive the full amount of the bill. Okay, when you bought your credit card for gasoline or for your meal, whatever it is you're buying, basically the vendor would get roughly 2% or so less than that. Yeah, but then the burden is on the people advancing money to the credit card company. We can't accept less than the amount of the bill, so we can't eat 1 or 2 or 3% of that. So there are all these regulations, and we can't increase the transaction by the amount that would be the cost. That would be, against regulations of the use of credit card transactions. So between regulatory and us needing to accept the full 100% of the transacted, amount, the closest thing we do as convenience to the employees. And we've had 2 different entities look at the system that we're working with that we've had since, I don't know how long we've had it before. I've only been here 6 years, but it's been here for quite a while. They have not come forward with a better offer than what we're currently charging. This is a cost, unfortunately, that has to be passed on to the customer. We don't have no
Currently
budget
has
detail.
our water and sewer payables and receivables. Which bank? Is that DNC?
Well, we make our daily deposits at PNC, if that's what you mean. You mean when they pay online?
Yeah, I guess
The funds,
I'm sh-
proprietary funds.
I guess I'm
Well,
just a
well,
little,
well,
I can't believe it in today, and I understand all the regulations, but I just can't believe that you can't use your Visa card or MasterCard and pay your water. And I understand exactly what you're saying, but there has to be a mechanism out
One
there
of the-
for
one of the
government.
ways-
Like a business.
I'm not sure if you want to do this, but one of the ways you could do it is if the town enacted an ordinance that allowed for credit card payment to be paid less than.
And we wouldn't want to do that.
That's the thing, because it's not like if you walk into People's and buy something,
I
they
follow.
agree to, they agree to.
They
that,
agree,
but-
they're
yeah.
agreeing to have
Because they,
less. 'Cause they're
they'll
paying
accept
the
less because they may not make that sale if they didn't accept less.
I'm not giving
So that's
up on
the
this.
business
I'm gonna
cost.
find an answer.
I mean, that's economics though. I mean, if a retail store is going to increase this pen by 2% because they're going to get charged that 2% from a credit card. And some of American Express are more, and there's other ones.
They're right, they're
that are more.
different, that's right.
But, I mean, I think we're overlooking, what about a money order? You can go walk right across the street over here and pay, what, $2 for a money order?
You can
It'd just be
take
done
the
that.
Well, you can.
Well, yeah.
You can
So they can
get
just,
the money
if they
order.
come here, we can just direct them to go across the street to the 7-Eleven and get a money order. I mean,
That would be
then
an
we
option.
save
They also have an
$4.95.
That's the same as cash.
I'm sorry?
They also have an ATM, which is, they will pay you.
If they, yeah. So, I mean, and you could do, they could do a credit
Yeah, I
card,
mean,
they
they-
do a money order over there.
But you're right, they don't have to pay with a credit card.
Correct.
They don't have to.
That's correct.
And you brought up a great point, and when you go in and buy something with cash, you should be able to negotiate a lower price because you're paying for the 2 or 3% the vendor is losing with all the people who pull out credit card.
That doesn't
I
happen.
tried that at Macy's.
No, it doesn't happen, I know.
It doesn't happen
Yeah,
either,
it doesn't happen.
Gas is not king.
But that's,
Not anymore.
yeah.
True.
But that is a good point. That's been brought up before. We've had a couple people look at our structure, and it doesn't seem to be, it seems to be in line with what the people that, the two other entities that presented their product, they didn't, they thought it was, well, evidently something they couldn't beat or match.
Very good.
The year-end audit, which is what we're in now, we're still, in many ways, working with fiscal year 14, although it actually ended June 30th, 2014. There's a lot of accruals and deferrals to do in preparation of the auditors coming in. There's a lot of work behind the scenes to prepare for the auditors before they actually step foot in here, which will be in a couple of weeks. And then, of course, that is all the precursor to the preparation of the comprehensive annual financial report, for which we recently received the award for the most recently submitted one, which was for fiscal year 2013. And we will certainly be applying for it again for fiscal year 2014. These are admittedly very boring kind of functions and responsibilities, but are all necessary. And for those who expect to check every 2 weeks, and every vendor who expects to be paid in a timely fashion, and to the taxpayers out there who expect to see financial statements, and to banks that loan us money, you know, to be able to rely on our financial statements. And
What are the confirmation letters?
confirmation letters are if part of an audit requires them to confirm certain balances and things. So if we show that we've gotten so many dollars in highway user revenue, for example, a letter will be sent to the state of Maryland, who sends us the money for the highway user revenue, and say, confirm this amount. Basically, the town of Elkton says they received this many dollars from you. Can you confirm that? Or the town of Elkton has on its general ledger this many dollars in their cash account. PC Bank, can you confirm that? So it's an independent
As of.
confirmation as of a
I
certain date.
understand now.
Right.
Okay.
That's all one of the many
That's
steps
like
of an
check and
audit.
balance.
Absolutely. You're confirming from an independent source. You can either send out a positive confirmation, which they have to actually say how much did you send the town this year for that category, or a negative confirmation, which just tell us if this amount is wrong. So there's different types of confirmations. There's two types. It's all third party, you know, confirming what you say is so.
So if you have a difference of a figure or opinion, then you go with which one?
No, we got some explaining to do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what,
What is that?
yeah.
Okay.
You know, one or both will be wrong.
Right.
And that's, I don't know, we have some miscellaneous functions. Of course, everything that I talked about, whether it's payables, receivables, anything, all requires a maintenance of general ledger to reflect all of that. What has recently been time consuming would be the police department pension administration. Parking tickets are something that's very time consuming, and occasionally someone will come from the public and say, how much did you pay for this, or what have we paid for that over the years? Just a lot of miscellaneous stuff.
Very good.
Probably one of
It's
the-
really not as exciting as it sounds. I know it. I made it sound. I know I made it sound very exciting.
I think it's very important certainly for me to understand all of the roles that you're doing, and this certainly helped me.
One of the things you want to, what is a big ticket item for us and for be a growing liability in the future is the police pension. And Steve coordinates every 2 years for an actuarial analysis based on payroll to determine how much we have to contribute. So you'll see a big number that goes into the budget every year just for our contribution annually to the pension fund, in addition to the 8% we collect pre-tax from all the employees of sworn personnel. And that all adds together to the pension fund. And as a member, he and I and Joe Zabrillo, currently rep from FOP, are the committee that'll have to develop a investment plan. That's why we're going with you at Price, and coordinate all the activities of the pension committee in order for these things to happen. And because we're a public body set up by statute, then we have to have it as an open meeting. So when we come in here to meet, we're going to post it and give notice and all that kind of stuff. We don't advertise, but we put it out there. So when you see that, you'll know that's what we're up to, so to speak. And ours are our test down.
Our first, yeah, it'll be our first full retiree. But we've had a number of people leave, and their right is to withdraw their funds, which requires some legwork of calculations and submittal to the actuary to do the calculation.
Charlie, you've got 20 years into the plan.
Yeah. Zero balance.
With zero balance.
So I want to thank Beth again for all her work
Yeah, Beth,
put together.
Thank you, Beth.
Presentation together.
Any questions from the board?
Do they still have the 125 cafeteria plans?
So we don't have that here.
Is there not? You don't- Okay.
We don't call that.
Pre-tax.
Yeah. I mean, our healthcare is pre-tax. Their contribution, I guess not. Their contribution toward the pension is pre-tax. Is for tax effective.
But
There are 125 cafeteria plans. It's just like in a cafeteria, it's a hodgepodge.
You get to choose so much of this and that. You can-
This and that pre-tax.
okay.
Disabilities,
Okay. I didn't,
LTDs,
I heard
STDs.
I've heard of it, but I didn't hear it.
STD, yeah, short-term disability. I didn't go there, he did.
Okay, no other questions on the finance department? Thank you, Steve. Louis, you're on about the speed hump policy, and I think we got, we'll have some input maybe from Dan also, if there's any questions. Regards, what you're thinking?
The speed hump policy was adopted in 2008, and it seems like there's a lot of interest in the residents putting a speed hump on their street. But what we've run into over time and more frequently is that the board obviously wants to please the citizens, and whenever a speed hump is requested, we launch into a citizen survey and everything. And it's very expensive in a sense to do that, because recently we've done several. And a good example I want to make is the speed hump requested on Independence Drive, because what we do, we send a survey letter and self-addressed stamp envelope, and in this case to 132 residents. And we received 34 responses out of that 132 letters and that we sent out, and of course 19 out of that 132 wanted it and 15 didn't want it, and the rest of them never responded. Of course, the old saying is if you don't show up at the polls, your vote doesn't count. So if you want to look at it from that sense, but it actually we're developing into a situation where very few individual residents are putting an expense on our government to do this, rather than another system where they would go out and have a contingent or consensus of their neighbors come to the board about it. And that we put in speed humps, and they're anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000 a pop. So it's not something you just go throw out. I mean, it's an expense.
So what's your suggestion?
Well, I'd like to amend the policy that if we have a resident come to the board about a speed hump, we want the resident to do some work, see if they can get a consensus of their particular neighborhood. In some cases, that would be relatively easy. Small neighborhoods, a good example is Hollingsworth Street, very few houses there, everybody knows each other. Pretty easy for them to come in and say, okay, we've got 20 people living on the street, 15 of them with speed humps, can you put a speed hump in? Okay, that's not a problem. One of the other parts of our policy is to have the police evaluate the need for a speed hump. In some cases, police can go out and not see any speeders. You just don't. It depends on where you are. If you see a cop car, you don't do anything, So I guess the thing a speed hump, better than a speed hump is a cop car. But we don't have enough to set around on all the streets, so use these traffic calming devices. Put some thought behind what's the best way to do it, the most economical way to do it, and yet try to meet the needs of the citizens in terms of traffic calming and everything like that. But so I'll come back with a kind of a policy, but I just wanted to touch base on this because we're spending a lot of money, and in some cases the results are not favorable to a speed hump. We don't meet a threshold, and we spend all that for nothing. And in other cases, we may spend quite a bit of money putting in speed humps, and they don't really achieve much purpose because there's very few people who will benefit from that traffic calming. So probably we need to strike up a balance on what's the best way to spend taxpayers' hard-earned money. So even though we use highway user money for this, but somebody's still paying for it, and how we would do it. So I'll come back with some recommendations, and we'll take a look at it.
I had a phone call yesterday from a resident of Patriots Glen. His name is, it's Andy, and I wish I could pronounce his last name, but he was going to drop off today. I know he was going to email it to me, so I'll take a look here at my phone, but he had some thoughts on traffic calming devices that maybe we might want to take a look at. They have one of their thoughts was in some neighborhoods they're creating like an hourglass effect, and the hour, instead of the speed hump at your crossing areas, they kind of pick. There's still room for two cars to pass very easily through there, but the perception as you're driving, it makes you think, oh my gosh, the road is pinching down a little bit. But he mentioned that in a lot of the cross areas, and I'll have it printed out for everyone to take a look at. I like speed humps. I like our thought about the little sign in the middle of the road. I think any of these things that'll calm the traffic down, I think, is a win for us. Public safety is what we're supposed to be doing here.
Probably one of the best examples, and everybody in this room has probably seen it, is on traffic calming, is the Union Hospital. When you come down, especially when there's traffic is coming down, for some reason people just stop. There's no stop sign there, but they stop, especially if they're going eastbound. They come down there. I don't know how many times we got there, wait for traffic passes by, and somebody will stop, and there's no stop sign. They'll do it from both sides for some reason.
Yeah.
But when KCI did the design on that street, we worked with Union Hospital, and because of the narrowing effect of that street, that achieved significant traffic calming. And of course, obviously, you have the pedestrian crossing and a lot of people outside that pedestrian crossing between Union Hospital and everything. At one time, Union Hospital wanted us to actually close High Street and develop that into a campus environment, but I think that the board at that time still realized that High Street, there's a lot of traffic on High Street.
Plus,
So you had to divert it
plus the
elsewhere.
town owns High Street.
Well, of course they do. And I was going to say, diverting the traffic off of High Street would be incredibly where would you go? I mean, you know, you have to change Main Street and Howard Street, Railroad Avenue and everything, so I don't think that will happen, but the calming does work there, so, you know, if you ever look there, you'll see that. So that's probably what he's talking about, so the perception on narrowing
there.
the street can have a dramatic effect.
I didn't have it on there, so
Well,
I'll
they're
make
doing
sure.
it in a lot of towns, they're just even painting it to make it look like
Look like
it's
that's
supposed to be
true,
small.
yeah.
And if you want to see one where they really spent some money in Harmony Road in Delaware,
Oh, yeah.
they actually put
Yeah.
the concrete on the sides and
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
going in and
Yeah.
out and in and out. I just noticed the other day, the concrete's really wearing off, so people are.
But you know, the painting
But-
makes,
But the
it doesn't
painting,
affect
it
anything.
doesn't
other-
affect anything, but it just gives you that visual effect that, I better slow down, it's getting smaller.
And you can
doing
enhance
to
that
a lot.
painting with the reflectors also. You ever see those things you put out at night, and then when you go at night, they glow, you know, and you actually, you know, that. Okay.
I have just a couple of things, because actually I did email Lewis. I had someone concerned about, they wanted a speed hump in Thompson Estates, and here we go in Thompson Estates again, it's part county, part town. And at this particular house, it's a townhouse, and then across the street is a county resident, and then over here is a town, the next one's a county. But they wanted a speed hump, and those did contact the county, and they do not install speed humps.
No.
So there, you know, there's nothing that can be done there. But we're looking at other ways anyway, so I'll get back to them.
Yeah, I know the house.
Well, it's a couple of them now,
Yeah.
because it's the generations has changed and there's lots of kids again. The kids grew up and now there's new people coming in with lots of little kids, so they're all in the street and so now they're.
In the day, I lived in Highland, I lived in Berkeley Drive, long stretch,
Uh-huh.
and we had the county back then, it was just speed bumps.
Yeah.
Just speed bumps, so
Yeah.
they weren't doing them back, 30+ years ago.
And the kids that know it, they just fly over them sometimes too.
Some see that, I guess.
The most effective one that I've ever been across is in, actually, it's right over here, and it actually, it's inverted, if you will. I can't remember the name of the road right over here, it's right by the church. Walk around the soccer field, and it's the first right. But that's actually, it goes down. Now, don't tell me that a pipe has collapsed there.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's
Yeah,
why it's there.
Now they go to the it's,
But I tell you what, it unsettles the vehicle.
Or,
I'm not sure what road that is.
King?
What church is it?
Reception, Immaculate Reception, you go in, make first left, go past the church, you go around the fields, make there's actually a road that goes like this.
It's on next to the parallel lines for Street.
So then it's right at the end of that.
There's Hollingsworth Street, then King
Yeah.
Street, then Pennsylvania
Yeah.
Avenue.
Right.
It's Kings then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right at the end of that, it
Matter of
unsettles.
fact, that might be a utility.
Yeah, but at least for my neighborhood, the hump, even with the kids, it does slow them down, because
Yeah.
the rest of the neighborhood, they seem to zoom around.
Yeah.
The bus stops there, and really $3,000 is nothing compared to a child's life, or anybody's life.
Mhm.
Is there something that the board has thought about in the past, as far as new development coming in, that we would make them do these type of safety things?
I think
mean,
that's-
that's something that
that's
we
when we
keep
need
on
to
the
address
radar
it.
all the time.
And that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We just haven't had any new development for a long, long time. That's,
Michelle, what did I ask you about the comprehensive plan today on the phone? What was that? For the speed humps, do you remember? The new comprehensive plan was.
Yeah, that's
anything?
exactly what you asked, would it be required for new development to place speed humps on streets in new developments? Would that come from
I
the,
think it
probably
makes sense.
subdivision regulation.
When did that go into effect?
What?
he did not, he was asking about that earlier today on the.
Oh, it
on the
hasn't gone
phone.
into
Right.
effect at all.
Because a lot of developments, even over in Delaware, when they go in, speed humps go along with it as well.
Well, it's the time to do it. Well, listen, we don't have anything else on our agenda right now. Is there anything anyone wants to bring up? We've got time, if you have anything you want to
I
bring up.
just wanted to see if everybody got an invitation to this. I cannot attend, but Secretary Raymond Skinner is retiring.
Oh
And
my God, he is, huh?
he's retiring, and we actually, the Alliance, we put together a gift basket for them. They asked for the towns to do that. So they had a party internally, but this is September 18th. And it's at Michael's 8th Avenue in Glen Burnie. So I didn't know if anybody else got it, or they give us this department gives us our community legacy grant, the CDBG grant, facade money. They do a lot for towns. So I just wanted to pass it on in case anybody wanted to.
I'll look at that date, September 18th.
Yeah. It's Fall Fest.
One of the things I'd like to mention, if we just got a couple seconds here, is this
Yeah, I'll do
standard
that.
solar thing. I mean, is the board interested in pursuing that?
Sure.
Yeah, I heard something on the news, I think it was out in California, looking at the news, and it was last week. There was some concerns about the solar panels killing birds out,
Doing what?
killing the birds as far as
Isn't that the windmills,
heat
maybe?
coming from the.
Oh, that's the,
Yeah,
No, it wasn't windmills.
Is it solar panel?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I
it's
heard
static,
this,
so.
talking about the heat drawing, I think 900 and some degrees.
Might be
I
out
mean,
there.
Yeah, yeah, it was the panels somehow are all directed to one spot in the field. So they were collecting it, and as it was going through, the birds flew through. It wasn't a standard
Okay,
setup.
I
It was,
just picked it
that's
up.
that, yeah.
I was gonna
Sort of like a
question-
magnifying glass, you know, when you
Yeah.
focus the sun.
It was just some concerns about
Yeah,
the
yeah.
solar panel.
Yeah, because they were directing what the heat to a center spot in the field. They said they were smoking,
Come out
yeah.
dry.
Lou, what were they needing from us?
Well, it's not a matter of needing from us, they gave me a next steps thing. And I don't have any authority to say, okay, we want to initiate this, because it'll require a lot of work on their part. Of course, their assurance it's not going to be a cost to us, but it is a cost to us, because if we give them 10 acres of land to do this, that's land at value, you know what I mean? So it's not like a freebie. We just won't be able to use that land for any other purpose. I want to make sure, because I know one time we were talking about the rec center down there, but this will exclude any other use of the land. I don't believe that we'll need that land at least in 20 years for expansion of the plant, because we can actually do that, retrofit the plant that we have to get up to 5 million gallons a day treatment capacity. Beyond that, probably the solar system, the solar farm will probably be dead and gone or used up by the time we may need it. So I don't know, I just need to have a consensus of the board so I can notify this guy and says, okay, send me the necessary stuff, because it will require council to look at agreements and things of that nature. And it's something that, of course, it'll take time, so the soybeans will be gone by the time that we do it.
Well, of course, my
I think they
position-
started it down in Bayview.
Yeah, they did.
We went over to talk to Perry Willis, and they hadn't started yet, but Steve and I wanted to get out and take a look at what this, physically what's going on. And they hadn't started that, but I think they have started now, to stake out for it. But they have a big area behind the Bayview School. You may be, I don't know, if Commissioner Gibbons is familiar with it, but it's a really big area, so they do have space to put a very large solar farm. We don't have quite as much, but I don't know how many kilowatts we can get out of things.
Well, I'd say, let's all digest it, and we'll give Lewis a decision. We'll put it on the agenda for next Wednesday, and if we as a group want to move forward with it, we'll vote on it Wednesday. Give you a few.
Well, you're actually not committed to it until it's actually get an agreement, put it writing in there. But these companies will have to put out, manpower and to develop all this stuff. So I just don't want to be a frivolous exercise. It's
Yes.
actually, our intent is to do this. And actually, I don't see why we wouldn't want to do it, but,
Sorry, I was gonna copy some road. That had that on it. I was down.
I think it's a
Copy
hair,
Road.
that's a hair house.
White Hair, they were having if anybody wanted to see it.
So I was
they were
really
talking about it.
surprised that we talked about it. I looked.
There's,
Yeah.
on Patriots Way, there's a house
Actually,
up
they
there
got it
that has a
done today, we had the person here doing the presentation.
Okay, I'll bring it up to the meeting on the 3rd and just vote a consensus. to
Yeah,
see
that'd be
how-
good.
We'll do it that way.
All right, very good. This meeting is adjourned.